Yeah, it's Cash. Get him. DJ Deuce McGuire, this hot as a log fire. Spark the lighter in the 303. We wrestle at the quarry. Golden, Colorado. Mercury Pro Wrestling Academy. Elevated wrestling. Yeah. Hashtag follow if you know the motto. Can't stop now. Got the need for speed. Combustion and concussion. Championships in my vision. I put the key in the ignition. Such an easy decision. I got a hustler's ambition. Wrestling at its best. Welcome to the show I put on for Rocky Mountain Pro. Let's go.
RMP Radio is back on the air. Hi, I am your host, Mr. Fourth Row, and joining me on this edition, I've got a very, very special guest. It's Danger. It's Danger Dean. Danger Dean, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you, man?
I'm doing just fine, all things considered, in the craziness of the world that is right now. But I'm glad to get you on here. So people from Rocky Mountain Pro Radio, the listeners, may have remembered you from being in the shows and participating and all that kind of stuff like that. What have you been doing since we last saw you? We thought, I thought you were going to be retired, but my understanding you got sucked back into the wrestling business.
Well, and isn't that funny how it always seems to happen, and how I always kind of phrase it as I retired, and then I throw like the overused air quotes around the word retired, because I mean, are you ever really fully retired as a wrestler when you decide that the time has come to walk away? I don't really know until your body completely shuts down and all of that. No. So the last time I was in Rocky Mountain Pro was in 2017, and I had wrestled a match with Trey Island, and the stipulation was if I lost that match that I would no longer be able to wrestle within the confines of Rocky Mountain Pro, and so that was kind of my exit out. And then after that, I kind of made a bunch of different little kind of I say little moves, but a couple big moves as far as distance goes. So when I left Colorado, I went to an area just south of West Palm Beach, Florida. My family and I moved out there, and quickly discovered that Florida really wasn't for us. Believe it or not. So at that point, we decided to, again, make another cross-country move. Now, just to let you know, a move from Colorado to Florida is crazy enough. Right. And then so wanting to do it again kind of tells you just how much we wanted to get out of Florida. Some people absolutely love Florida. It just for us just wasn't our thing, you know.
Yeah. So then you moved to the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah. So then we packed up again and moved to Bremerton, Washington, which is just west of the Puget Sound, if anybody's familiar with the area. If not, basically Seattle is on the east side of the Puget Sound, and then Bremerton is on the west side. So we can either drive to Seattle or we can take a ferry. We have different options, but that kind of geographically tells you where in the state that I am. And funny enough, when I moved out here, I kind of had that bug to get back into wrestling, but maybe not so much on a wrestling basis. I didn't really feel like I was ready to come back physically to wrestle, but I was ready to hop on a microphone. I was ready to become a ring announcer. If anybody needed commentary, maybe management work, I was just ready to do anything, you know. And I ended up finding a promotion that was about 5 minutes away from where I had just moved. And I was like, wow, well, I'm going to have to go check out this show. And then on the poster, there were a bunch of familiar faces from, my Rocky Mountain Pro and wrestling history and past. Faces like Big Vig were on the poster, Adin Reyes. There were a bunch of guys from Utah that I was like, okay, well, if these guys are at the show, I'm going to go, at least go check the show out and see what it's all about. So I had planned on going to the show. Things had fallen through. I think a bunch of the Utah guys ended up not coming. So then I ended up not going to the show and ultimately put that off for a few months until, honestly, today, as of today when we're filming this, believe it or not, was the first time that I ended up attending a show that the promotion that I'm currently working for had put on. And I ended up going and saying, hey, I'd offered up some services, and he said, send me a highlight video, which I actually, believe it or not, did not have. You would think that as long as I had wrestled, I didn't have a highlight video. So I decided that I would get one made, and I did. And then I had spoke with him a few more times. I'd attended a few more shows and told him that I was interested in hopping on a microphone, and he offered up his gym, and I went to the gym, and then this is where the wrestler gets sucked back in to the business after he decides that he doesn't want to wrestle anymore. He says, hey, I've got a gym that's in Tacoma. If you'd like to come on down, I would open my door up to you and see what you got left, essentially. So I went to the gym, and we wrestled around for a little bit. And I was like, wow, I've got a little more gas in the tank than I thought. And he said he would book me on the next show. So I started doing my jumping jacks and my push-ups, and then I started wrestling again beginning of this year in January. Then had my second show in February, and then COVID shut everything down, and that's kind of where we are now.
And what promotion is this?
This is Northwest Pro, and again, we're based in Tacoma, but as of right now, we're not really running any shows here in Washington because there's no chance to. So we've run a show in Idaho. We did that at the end of July. We actually had a show at a speedway that was a lot of fun, very interesting, very hot. I realized that I do not like wrestling outside in the sun because it's just too damn hot.
Yeah, it can be. Yeah, true. So Northwest Pro sounds like they cover a decent size geographical area.
Well, typically we run in Mason County, which it's a pretty small area. Essentially, I mean, our shows run pretty small, but we have the ability to go elsewhere. We've got people that have rings that will borrow or rent, and that's kind of how we work that. That way we're not having to drive a ring, right, 6 hours across the state to another state and all of that. So we've just been, really smart about bookings and seeing how, and especially, of course we're still following, COVID guidelines and all of that. And, so that's kind of where we're at now. We actually had a show that was supposed to happen at that same raceway on the 22nd of this month. However, that ended up getting canceled, so we're not going to be wrestling. So we're kind of figuring out what to do from there. We do have Pat Tanaka coming out for a seminar though, so that's going to be a whole lot of fun.
Oh, that's cool. All right. So yeah, so basically, it sounds like the restrictions are still a little bit tight, or just some things just can't be pulled off yet for Northwest Pro yet in the area for some situations.
Yeah, as far as capacities and stuff, they haven't opened up venues yet for events like that. As far as I know, Colorado's got a little bit more of a lenient rule on it, but right now, and as far as our gym goes too, we run in a space that makes it possible to where we can not have everybody in the gym at the same time, as far as where the ring is and all of that. So and you're only allowed to have 5 people at once, and so we abide by that. We typically have 2 to 3 people in the building itself, and then of course we can social distance outside and still do our workouts and still get in everything that we need. So that's kind of how we've been managing through COVID, and we've only started our training back up we've probably only been doing it now for about a month and a half since they kind of let the restrictions up a little bit.
Oh, that's cool. That's all right. So speaking of that, you have now dipped your toe into the water of the podcasting game, and you're talking about that promotion. What made you do that?
Well, I have those who are familiar with me know, and if you're not, I've actually, I've spent 15 years in the radio business,
Right.
and I just decided that especially with again with COVID shutting everything down, it really did minimize opportunities for jobs and things like that. So I decided that I would, I guess you could say, pursue other ventures, and podcasting is something that I've always been interested in doing, but it's always been one of those things that was like, what do I talk about? How do I talk about that? Why would I talk about that? So it was always something that I always said to myself that would have to mean something if I were going to do it, and I feel like I found myself in a position that is the case.
Awesome. And tell the listeners the your name of your podcast and what you guys basically talk about.
Yep. So the name of the podcast is Tackle Dropdown, the Tackle Dropdown podcast, and you can actually find that pretty much wherever you would find your regular podcast, or wherever you would go for your regular podcast listening. I should say Spotify, Apple Podcast, Stitcher. There's a whole bunch of them. If you find go to Facebook, you can find us, Tackle Dropdown Podcast, and we've got a whole list of where you can find us. Or just go ahead and go to your podcast app and search for it, and you should be able to find it there. But really, what we're tackling in the show is what we're doing here in our part of the state in Washington, which is not significantly big as far as the scene goes. We are still nowhere near comparable to some of the big guys out here like Defy and some of the bigger awesome promotions. But we are definitely trying, and we're trying to just give an avenue of some of the younger guys to come in and get a start, or either a fresh start. We do have some guys that have been in the business like myself that found themselves here at the gym and the promotion that have kind of been given a second life. So that's kind of where we're at now. So we're discussing the state of affairs of our promotion, and then we'll dip our toe into what's going on, obviously, in the national world of wrestling, and the wrestling that matters is what we call it, the wrestling that actually makes money.
Oh, I see. That's an interesting way to take on that. So that's great. I've never heard it put that way. Speaking of getting back into the wrestling, and a few things to catch up with you. Before you left us and made your move, were pretty much getting into a lot of the promotions. Of course, Rocky Mountain Pro, and we're also a fan favorite at Colorado Springs Wrestling. And one thing I kind of wanted to follow up and check in back with you. One of your last nights there at CSW, kind of a crazy night. Winning the championship for a short amount of time, and breaking the fourth wall a little bit. You were leaving us, and then it kind of got announced that, it didn't come to be, but at the time announced that CSW was going to be on TV, and you're like, what the fuck? I'm leaving. What the heck now?
Yeah, it's like, as soon as I leave, that's what you decide to do. Which was awesome. I'm always really pumped when an opportunity like that comes along. Unfortunately, it didn't come to fruition. Other things happened, unfortunately and sadly, but yeah, that was a really fun show. That was a show that actually wasn't supposed to originally happen. They had run a show earlier in that month,
right?
But I was able to make that show. So the promoter at the time, Chris Chavez, who's unfortunately no longer with us, I had a conversation with him, and he said, if you can't make this show, I would love to try to work a show with you before you go. I was leaving at the beginning of January in 2018. So I was, I gave him my dates. I was like, this is when I'm open. And I believe that show was just a few days after Christmas. So the amount of time that he put into promoting that show, because, we had a great turnout for it, especially given the time of year that it was.
Right.
He was also able to get Marty the Moth, who is a really good friend of mine, to do the honors, which that was a whole lot of fun. And in I guess symbolic fashion, cut off my hair, which was the last time that I had long hair. He ended up cutting it off, and I believe he shoved it down his pants or did something romantic like that.
And I want to unwind some of the things you talked about. What was it like working with Christopher Chavez with that promotion? And I know it was, he was, I mean, like you said, unfortunately, he's no longer with us, but he touched everybody, including myself, me just attending. How did your relationship with him turn out to be, and working with him, how did that all go for you?
Well, that was, he had reached out to me because I had wrestled in Colorado Springs before. Obviously, is where I had gotten my start.
Right.
So he reached out to me, when they started the promotion. Another one was Sammy Six Guns that he reached out to and was like, we want to get you on the show. I am the provider. There was just a handful of guys. He was like, we really want to get this going again. And there were a bunch of us that were definitely pro wrestling in Colorado Springs. It had been a while since there had been a promotion there. So working with Chris was great. He was super open to, pretty much anybody who wanted to do business and do business well. And I don't really think there are many people that could say they had a bad experience with him. So it was a lot of fun. He let me do a lot of things. I got to wrestle a casket match at one point. I got to wrestle Pat Tanaka at one point, which was a whole lot of fun. Actually, I believe that was the very first CSW show I got to wrestle Pat Tanaka. So Chris always did really great things, but for everybody that was on the roster.
Yeah, that casket match, was that the one was that you and the I Am the Provider?
Yes.
That was so funny. That was a great match.
That was a lot of fun. He's one of my, and that was, I mean, I did I had my match in Rocky Mountain Pro. That was, we had the history on the match, but it was really just a one-off. We didn't really have any matches really that led up to that final match. It was just the one match. So really my last running program in Colorado was with I Am the Provider, which was a whole lot of fun, trying to get me to join the cult and me refusing to join the cult and building up to that casket match in that point. That was a lot of fun. Always had a really good time working with Joe.
Yeah. And now seeing what CSW has evolved to over the years, are you kind of a sense of pride and kind of, I'm glad to see that there's a constant promotion running in Colorado Springs?
I am, and it's always a question whether or not is it going to last, is it going to work, and it's really great to see that CSW has become what it is and still is running. And I believe they just had a show just a couple days ago, didn't they?
Yeah, I was there. Yeah.
Yeah. So I saw some pictures online. It looked like a lot of fun. It looked like Big Guns got bloodied up real nice, which I know he probably enjoyed.
Yeah, he tends to it's kind of his MO right now. He's kind of been doing a lot of that with his matches, but when you're the hardcore champion, you got to be ready for it.
Hey man, you got to step up and do what you got to do. If you're taking on the role of hardcore champion, you better get ready to get hardcore, baby.
Yeah. And so additionally with CSW, I mean, you have pretty much, if I'm not mistaken, you have wrestled in, I'd say, pretty much all the promotions in Colorado, or Rocky Mountain Pro, Lucha Libre and Laughs, Primos, and every from there to A to Z, and all the ones that have been in the past as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, really the only ones that I hadn't wrestled in were the ones that came after me. Right. IWF, before they were no longer running, I did wrestle. I didn't ever wrestle in Saga, but I had just started training when Saga was a thing. Mm-hmm. So I'd caught a few shows as a fan, but never wrestled on their card. But really after that, I pretty much wrestled in every promotion that came out. Some of the lucha promotions I did not wrestle for, so I can't claim that. But
right. Well, how many lucha promotions are there? There's like a million, right?
Yeah, there's a bunch. I had worked for a couple. I've never worked for like Legacy or any of those that are Hugo's I'd never worked for, some of the bigger, the bigger ones that are out there. But I had worked for a few different ones that I can't remember off the top of my head, unfortunately. But I was fortunate to do some really fun, good business with a lot of awesome people. And at the time, there, and still it stands true. There's no bad promoter in Colorado. So that's the one thing that I can always pride myself on, and that I never, worked with anybody that was questionable or had to worry about that or anything,
Yeah. And speaking of that, what have been some of the most fun, memorable moments that you've had in, any promotion, from, I know I missed this, like the Denim Club or anything like that, but what have kind of been standing out for you when you think about it?
So I think the most fun that I had, and there are a few. I mean, when I first started wrestling, obviously was a really good time with Asylum Championship Wrestling. I got to do a lot of really fun stuff with them. Rocky Mountain Pro, though, they just gave me a lot of opportunities to do a lot of things. The 463-day run with the title was a whole lot of fun. I got to do a lot of different things, and at the time they were pretty unique. I had to pull the brakes off of a lot of stuff because there was stuff on TV that I was like, oh man, this is too similar to what's going on. So just taking different routes and things like that, and kind of making it my own and getting the reaction. But then after the title run, probably one of my more favorite moments was when Sammy Six Guns actually came back to Colorado. And at that time, I was in a program with Ronin. And this happened on accident. It was a kind of an accidental result of a match that Ronin and I had, where I had him in a snapmare, and then I gave him like a fish hook or something like that. I put my finger in his mouth and like gave him an old fish hook, but then he bit me. So at that point, we decided after that match it would be funny if I thought that I was turning into a vampire because of this bite that I got from Ronin. And so we decided that was a great idea. So I thought it was phenomenal. So we decided to go with it. And it wasn't that I was actually turning into a vampire. The whole thing was that I thought that I was turning into a vampire. So it was more like, okay, Dean's an idiot, but so it was more of a comedic a role than it was for as more so that the championship run was, where I had to be more serious and be ready to do the more serious stuff. It was a lot of fun doing the fun angles like that, which culminated with Sammy Six Guns Jr. coming back, and him and Ronin had a soul on a pole match that contained my soul on a pole. And luckily, Six Guns won it, and then we teamed up to form Dangerously Handsome and ended up having a pretty good run there as well.
That's awesome. Yeah. So I think this was probably just a little bit before my time, before I got it, looking in the business. But I love hearing all these stories and getting little pieces from everybody. And I'm kind of making my puzzle of the history of Colorado independent wrestling. It's how
everything came to be.
Yeah, so then people can start asking me, "Do you know about this?" New people. I was like, "Well, I heard this history. I haven't been around forever, like a lot of people, but I was like, this is what I've heard." So it's fantastic.
That's what's a lot of fun with the show that Yaden's doing on Twitch, the Rewind Show, because if you didn't see a lot of that stuff, you have a chance to watch and see what we were doing, 7 years ago, 5, 6, 7 years ago. I'm terrible at math, so it was somewhere in that time frame.
True. That is very true. Yeah, leading all up to what we've got coming up, and I guess maybe we should talk about that. Rocky Mountain Pro Milestone 10, the 10th anniversary of Rocky Mountain Pro, and you're going to be paying us a visit, and more specifically, you're going to be paying a visit to the Vulture, the current champion. How'd that match come about? Is it just time that somebody knocked him off his perch, or what?
Well, I've heard a lot of talk that he feels that he is the greatest champion that Rocky Mountain Pro has ever seen, and don't think this is going to come as a surprise, but I don't agree with that. So I've decided that I'm gonna fly on out to Denver, Colorado, and we're gonna have him put his money where his mouth is and see if he really is the greatest champion that Rocky Mountain Pro's ever seen. Or let's see if I can win that thing and bring it back to Washington State with me, because I've got a nice little place right on my mantle that's going to look fantastic on.
Oh, that's great. I know I'm excited. I know as of this recording, there is very, very few tickets left for this show. So if you guys do want to get them, head over to rmpwrestling.com and get those. So from there, I assume that you've just been, since you've left us, you've just kind of been keeping an eye out, and that's kind of how this on RMP and kind of how this match kind of came about, and it was like no time better than the present to jump on that then, I guess.
Yeah, and it was just all timing. I had been talking with Matt about just coming on to some of the Twitch shows that he's doing and just doing some guest appearances and things like that. Yeah. And he had mentioned to me, he's like, hey, what if it's you and Dustin for the championship at Milestone 10? And I'm like, what better opportunity or what better chance to have a powerhouse. I'm going to be quite honest with you right now. Yeah. The Dustin Urich that I knew 3 years ago is a much different Dustin Urich that is the current champion there in Rocky Mountain Pro. So, can I win that belt? I damn right I can win that belt. So it's not only I'm going to win that championship, but it's going to prove to myself that I am still worthy of being in that ring and am still able to put on a show for the people. And I think that Milestone 10 is, I mean, not only our match, but I mean, all the matches on the card, it's stacking up to be pretty crazy, pretty big, man. I hope that anybody's able to attend is able to get their hands on some tickets before they go.
Right. Yeah. And speaking of that, it's a fantastic way for Rocky Mountain Pro to get back from how I like saying things got put on pause. So their first show after pushing the play button to go back, Milestone 10, up in Romero's in Lafayette. Fantastic outdoor venue. I can only imagine this card. It's going to be fantastic. And speaking of that, besides your match, what match intrigues you the most that you're going to be watching?
Well, they've got the Twitch Championship on the line, which that is the match that I'm going to be keeping my eyes on. Not only because it's Marty the Moth and he's the one who put me out of commission in the first place. That made me. We were in a loser leaves town match, and I literally left town. I had to leave town, but I'm going to come back and visit. So intrigued on that part. But Chongo is a guy that has been on my radar too, man. I really love everything that he does in the ring and outside of the ring. He's a crazy personality. So I think the clash of those two is going to be worth the price of admission.
Yeah, that's going to be fantastic too. I mean, I'm glad to see we're going to see that championship defended live in person there as well. So I totally agree with you. All right, I mean, I think that might be a fantastic point to put on this. But before I do let you go, people wanted to keep up with you, up to date, what you've got going on from now and in the future. Where could they do that, like on the social medias?
I'm very, very, very active on the social media. So if you're not following me already, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, those are my biggest platforms at the moment. You can find all of those under the handle The Danger Dean. All of them same handle, so it's nice and easy to find me. So you can go ahead and find me there.
Yeah, fantastic. All right. Once again, Danger Dean, I do appreciate you coming on, and I know I've got my tickets, and I can't wait to see you again in person in just a little over about 2 weeks.
That's right, August 29th, Milestone 10, man. I'll see you there.
Once again, a big, huge thank you to Danger Dean for coming on to this edition of RMP Radio and letting all the listeners know what he's been up to since we last saw him, and of course announcing and teasing that he's going to be here at Milestone 10 going for the Rocky Mountain Pro Championship. Speaking of Milestone 10, tickets at the time of this recording have all been sold out. So if you're going to want to watch Milestone 10, you're going to need to head over to our twitch.tv/Rocky Mountain Pro channel and put on a subscription for that. If you are an Amazon Prime subscriber, you do get a Twitch subscription of your choosing, and we would appreciate it if you would throw your subscription our way. Otherwise, it's a very nominal fee, and it's well worth this, as well as all the other shows that are on our channel every single week. All right, well, let's do our traditional. Before we get out of here, let's pay some bills. You want to get some merchandise of your favorite Rocky Mountain Pro superstars, head over to the website at rmpwrestling.com, click on the merchandise link, or if you're at the amazon.com or the Amazon app, search for Rocky Mountain Pro. You will be able to find all the great selections that we have there. And then, of course, hit up your Rocky Mountain Pro superstars. A lot of them now have their Pro Wrestling Tees store set up, and that's a great way to support them. All right, upcoming events. Well, we talked about that. Milestone 10 is coming up on the 29th. And then let's also just remind you, want to watch us? Twitch.tv/Rocky Mountain Pro. Also on the Impact Plus TV channel. We've got some videos there on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Rocky Mountain Pro, on Fight TV as well. Want to follow us and stay up to date with everything that we've got going on. Of course, very important since it's milestone season. Everything does stem from the website at rmpwrestling.com. And on the social medias of the Facebook, the Twitter, the Instagram, all of the Rocky MTN Pro. And that's, again, let me phonetically spell that to you. That's the Rocky Mike Tango November Pro. Well, I want to thank you all for listening and supporting RMP Radio, where pro wrestling is elevated.